Hello everyone, welcome to the free training series of Manage Engine Applications Manager. So today's topic is building a seamless customer experience. So why we are discussing this? Let's take an example. In the digital era, most enterprises uses a web platform to reach potential customers and showcase the products or solutions they offer. Websites have become extremely popular as a medium of establishing a brand image, and they contribute to making a major share of the revenue. Well planned websites can capture the attention of the target audience, increasing the probability of them turning into valuable paying customers. Whether you deliver a smooth experience for the customers or not, it completely depends upon the performance of your website. In today's webinar, I would walk you through how to evaluate and track the availability and performance of websites, how to optimize user experience via synthetic transaction monitoring, and how to resolve the front-end issues that impact users with real user monitoring. And in the last, we'll be seeing about the web page analyzer and how to optimize the web page performance. So let's get into the topic. So the first topic, effectively measuring the performance of your website. So recently I have read an article which was published in browserstack.com, which says 47% of consumers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. 80% of people abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load. A 1 second delay in page response can result in a 7% of reduction in conversions. So if your website is unavailable or has poor responsiveness, end users engage with your website pages or will not want to wait for them to load, which can have a very significant impact on your business reputation. Therefore, to ensure the effectiveness of your site, avoid any performance hiccups, and to create a seamless digital experience for the users, website performance monitoring is very essential. Not only that, it provides insight into your website availability, just like your website is up or down. Not only that, but we can also help us understanding of the critical metrics of your website so that you can work on improving its reliability and making it work optimally. So what are the causes of website slowness and downtime? So we know these are the major causes for the concern of businesses. Frequent downtime and slowness can make your site lose credibility among loyal customers as well as create a very bad impression on the first-time users. Now let's see the points. So the first one is the scheduled maintenance. So as we all know, it is a temporary period in which a site or an app is made offline for updates, backup, or maintenance. Next is the data center problems and server errors. So let's say if there is a data center problem or a server error, the request from the user may not even reach the server. Bugs in code. So we know these bugs may cause errors and prevent the site from not loading, or it might also cause slow loading. High traffic. When a high traffic happens, that means there are many people trying to access the website at the same time. So this we will not be able to handle the load. Hacking attempts. Hackers trying to pull any suspicious activities on your sites. This can cause your website to go down or become slow. So to prevent all these problems, we have brought this Applications Manager HTTPS URL monitor. So what are the basic advantages of adding a monitor, a URL monitor into App Manager is that First one, ensure 24/7 website availability. So we do a continuous URL monitoring service that keeps constant watch over a specific URL or web page. It helps to verify the availability of specified addressable standard HTTP and HTTPS URL. We can get an instant notification whenever your site goes down. Immediately you can get a notification. Let it be in your email, SMS, ticket, however you want it, you can configure your notification. So immediately it goes down, you get instant notification. We'll also have an option where we can recheck the website status to identify and eliminate the false positives. Say everybody loves a fast website. With improvements in broadband speeds and the advent of super fast website, user expectation about the website speed have been changed. Response time of a website determines the speed of the website. Response time is how long it takes for your web server to connect and to send the data packets to a browser of an end user. A website without latency can leave a very good impression on the customers and can help in lowering the bounce rates too. So Applications Manager URL Monitor tracks your website response time along with the split up such as DNS time, connection time, first byte, last byte time, all of that. So as we all know, first byte time is the time taken for a browser to receive the first byte of response from a web server, meaning it's a very strong indication on how fast the website is performing for that user. And the last advantage is the root cause diagnosis for quicker troubleshooting. So Applications Manager, any issue in the website, like let it be if it has caused the threshold profile you have set for the first byte, last byte, or the response code, anything, you will get a root cause analysis message in the alert you receive. Let it be your email or SMS, whatever it is, you will get the root cause diagnostics. This will help us to troubleshoot issue and reduce the MTTR. Now, quickly, let's see from the UI of App Manager. So I'm just going to the demo site. So this will be our demo site, demo.appmanager.com. It's a public URL. So this entire demo, this entire webinar, I will be taking from this demo site. So how to add a URL monitor? So the first way, you just go to New Monitor, Add New Monitor. So you can just go to administrator from our demo site. Again, I'm going to that. Clicking on to web server bar services, selecting HTTP URL from here. So once I select this, you will be asked to provide a display name. You can just give any display name as you wish. It is just for your reference purpose. So I'm just giving it as test URL. URL address. So if it's HTTP, give it as HTTP, and if it's using SSL, give it as HTTPS. So you can just give the URL that you wanted to monitor. So I'm just giving it as manageengine.com. Give the polling interval. Polling interval is nothing but the data collection taking place. So if I give it as 5 minutes, so for every 5 minutes, it will check your URL and you will get the data in Applications Manager. The timeout, and you also have HTTP configurations. So which form submission method you wanted to choose, you can use the post or the get, whatever you want. And when you go to a URL, if credentials are required to go inside the URL, then give the NTLM authentication, the username and password. You also have an option to give a response code. So if you wanted an error, if my response code goes more than 200, accordingly, you can set up your own response code. So if I set it like 400, then more than 400, if the response code for that URL goes, I will get an error. So if you have any user agent, you can just give that option. You also have HTTP headers, you can give that. And if you require and client certificate authentication, You can give that option and give the certificate name over here. And you also have an option for content check. Let's say if this particular word, so let's take an example, the word error is present in my URL, I want an alert. Accordingly, you can give. Or if that particular word is not present in that web page, I need an alert. Accordingly, you can give should contain and should not contain field if you wish. So these are not mandatory anyway. And if you've created a group and if you wanted to associate the monitors in that group, you can also give a group name here. And once you give all these options, you can just click on to add URL monitor. And once an URL monitor is added, you can view the details like this. So under web server, we already have 2 of our URLs added. I'm just going to one of them. So these are the details you can see. You can see the availability of the URL, the performance, the average and the current response time, and the response time split up, where you can see the DNS time, connection time, first byte and the last byte time. You can also see the page size, the percentage of the page size, what was the previous page size for each and every poll. All these can be seen. And whatever you're seeing right here on the screen, for everything, you can set up a threshold profile. And if it's violating the threshold profile you set, you will receive an alarm and you can also get a notification. Not only about the threshold, you can also get a report. Let it be any type of report. You have different types of report. If you want a report up to 1 year, you can also get that report. Let me just give you an example. For example, I need a report of the response time. I can just click on to this icon where it will look like this. So this is how the report looks like. You will have a history report, hour of day report, day of week, statistical, and the heat chart. Heat chart is nothing but comparison of similar type of monitors. So let it be any type of report, any attribute, you can get the complete report. And you can also fetch the report up to 1 year. You also have an option where you have a custom time period. For example, I wanted a report for my URL response time from yesterday this time to today this time. Accordingly, I'll give the custom time period option, give the start and the to time and click on to go, so that I can fetch this complete report in PDF or CSV format. So these are some of the options that we have. Now let's quickly get into the next topic. Detect website issues with active monitoring technique. Like I was saying later, in today's age of instant gratification, end users expect to be able to enjoy a seamless, issue-free experience on your website. Although monitoring a website availability and response time gives us a fair idea on whether your website is up and running or not, you can't know if your users are able to perform transaction without fail unless you understand the website's end user experience. So this is where you need to use synthetic transaction monitoring techniques. So here are some of the things that helps us do. So first, analyzing website performance from an end user perspective. Synthetic transaction monitoring involves analyzing the website performance from an end user perspective, which can help you identify issues that might otherwise go unnoticed. Monitoring lets us record a complex workflows to keep an eye on important transaction taking place on your website. So this is one of the main advantage, that we can dynamically track website availability and performance of your website from your user's location. Meeting SLAs can also be an important objective for many business owners, and synthetic transaction monitoring helps us verify if these SLAs are met or not. We'll also be able to provide a line of sight on service level agreements. Now let's see how Applications Manager Real Browser Monitoring facilitates the synthetic transaction monitoring. So Applications Manager Synthetic Transaction Monitoring feature, which is also called as Real Browser Monitor in App Manager, opens up a actual browser like Firefox from multiple geographical locations and tracks how the elements in your website load from that location, and also more specifically the way your users views the website. So the first step involves a web transaction recorder in which you can record critical transaction. Every action that we perform while recording, like say for like hovering the arrow, clicking on an element, all of this will be saved in a Selenium based script file. Applications Manager then opens up a real browser in which it plays a recorded transaction again to identify if any errors occurs, and during the playback data collection takes place and all performance metrics are then published on the monitor dashboard. We also take screenshots during the playback if there are any errors. The main advantage of synthetic transaction monitoring in Applications Manager is you can test from different locations. So this is how the architecture of synthetic transaction monitoring looks like. You will be asked to install an agent in all of the location. Agent and a web transaction recorder in all the location that you wanted to monitor. Let's take an example here, okay? So if you're hosting an event in your office and you have created a registration form for the same, which means that all employees need to register for the event. So all the employees, whoever is present in different branch offices, must register for this event. They should do it without any hassles. So to test this critical workflow of filling the form and successfully registering for the event, you can make use of Applications Manager Real Browser Monitoring. So for that, first you will need to install EUM agent in all your branch office. Then you can record the transaction of filling and registering from your main office. The same transaction will be performed in all your branch office using these EUM agent, which will then send data to Applications Manager. This way, you can check if the workflow functions without any errors in all desired locations. Applications Manager End User Monitoring Agent basically provide greater visibility into the user experience and help to detect potential performance problems with ease. The EUM agents can be installed in multiple branch offices in different cities or in the system of your end users. All you need is a secure HTTPS connection between the agent and the Applications Manager server. So quickly, let me show what are the metrics that we capture in this real browser monitoring. So I'm again going to our demo site. So we have an option called as Real Browser Monitor. So once you do the test, like once you install agent, perform the transaction that you wanted to monitor, once all of that is completed, and once you do a polling, once you do a playback, you will start getting the details like this. You can just go ahead and add the monitor. So you can see the availability. So how many agents you have installed, all the agents will get listed over here. The page load time for each and every agent can be seen here, and the transaction time. So I'm just going to this location. So when I click on to it, I can see what is the average page load time, the transaction time. Can also see the page load time of steps. So what are the steps that you have performed? All the steps will get listed over here along with the page load time for each and every step. Also, I've already seen the screenshots will be captured. We also have a waterfall graph where you can just click on to it. You can just hover your mouse over this. For example, this particular transaction, www.zoho.com, this particular transaction, what is the start time, the DNS lookup time, redirection time, blocking time, network latency, download time, all these can be seen from this waterfall graph. Not only for this website, you can see for each and every website, what are the details. Like this. Along with the screenshots, you can see it like this. So this is about the real browser monitor. So let's see some of the use cases of this real browser monitoring. With synthetic transaction monitoring, you can set up a benchmark scenarios to see how your applications are performing over time. You can also benchmark your company's performance against top competitors within a certain historical time frame or within a specific geographical region. This approach will help you establish a strategic outlook and preserve competitive advantage in the marketplace. Important and early stage of application development. As we all know, synthetic monitoring provides a set of baselines and threshold that will pinpoint any obstacle one is likely to face while using the application in real time. So today's website increasingly rely on third-party features such as ads, customer reviews, web analytics, social networking, videos, and much more to provide outstanding customer experience. So in case if there is a weak line in the chain, one or more of these elements are not working correctly, this can adversely impact your site. So synthetic transaction monitoring can greatly assist in helping to monitor your third-party application while also alerting you to potential or real performance degradations and downtime impacts. So this will also help us to tremendously in providing line of sight on your service level agreements in order to hold the third-party vendors accountable. Static monitoring also help us to set up baseline tests in order to measure the way your customer will interact with your website, APIs, or the mobile apps. This type of testing can provide direct feedback on performance degradation or availability issues. It also will help your team locate the root cause, engage the right experts, and fix issues before they impact the end users. So these are some of the use cases of synthetic transaction. Now let's quickly get into the next topic. Leverage real user behavior patterns to understand the web performance. First, let's give an overview on what is real user monitoring, and then we'll get into the deeper level of real user. So real user monitoring refers to capturing users' interaction with a website in real time. This helps you analyze how your end users perceive your website. As businesses go digital and global, their websites are accessed from various devices and from multiple geographies. So it's important to provide a consistent user experience across all geographies and devices, but in reality, user experience could be impacted by various external factors like network latency, operational hiccups, trouble retrieving the requested resources, slow ISP, etc. Also, what works in one browser may not work in another, as we all know. So this is where real user monitoring comes in handy. It helps us to see why your website is slow in a particular region, identify if you have overlooked any issues with your page load time, find out where and why a user abandoned a page. All of these information helps us to optimize your website performance. To understand why RUM is more essential, we must first understand the drawbacks of synthetic transaction monitoring. So these are some of the drawbacks that we have. Synthetic monitoring has one major weakness. It does not always align with reality due to the fact that nature of the traffic used for synthetic testing is not organic, but it is synthetic, and it isn't the truly representative of real user experience at any given time. Its outcome and performance are rather predictable. Because synthetic transaction monitoring uses simulated actions, it does not predict the actions of the real user customers. Or incident resolution. So when we receive complaints from the end users in real time, synthetic monitoring data does not tell about how the end user was expecting, what they were actually expecting and what they were actually doing. This we will not be able to know using synthetic transaction. So we have to painstakingly analyze the performance of every business critical transaction, create script for synthetic testing in order to uncover the possible issues, and this can be really time consuming process. Synthetic monitoring can't match the rich diversity of performance variables that exist in the real world, because you're not monitoring the actual users. As we all know, it is completely simulated one. All you have to do is simply the narrow view of application performance in real user monitoring. So now let's see how RUM works in Applications Manager. To facilitate the data collection and reporting, RUM agent is deployed in the server where the web application is hosted. Following that, a small JavaScript is injected in the header or footer of your website. So you find some static element in your web page, and then you will be asked to inject a small piece of code in the header or footer of your website. Once that is done, the RUM agent communicates between the JS code and Applications Manager, which usually depicts the captured data. The advantages of real user monitoring in Applications Manager are: we can proactively analyze how the front end performance of website varies across different geographies, ISPs, browsers, and devices to ensure hassle-free digital experience. Become aware of user satisfaction level using Abdex score. We can also isolate the web transaction, whichever is poor, like any poor performing web transaction. Gain comprehensive insight about domain resources and user session. Identify JavaScript errors instantly to prevent users from reporting service errors. And compare the impact of any new changes made in the site and how it has affected the user experience. Let's get UI and show how we add an RUM monitor and what are the metrics we monitor. So to add, again, same procedure, just like the URL monitor. You'll just go to new monitor, add new monitor. Select web server bar services and select a real user monitor here. So once you do this, the prerequisite, as I've already informed, you need to install an RUM agent, add the code in the header or footer of your web page. All this, once it is completed, you can go ahead and add these details. Give the website URL that you want to monitor, the Abdex threshold. what framework type. So if you have multiple pages application, go for the traditional one. If it's just a single page application, select the single page one. And if you wanted to cross track all the Ajax calls, you can enable this box. If you wanted to exclude any domain, if you think these are not important, you can just give it from this field separated by commas. You can also exclude user agents. For example, users who's using Firefox, I don't want to see them. Or users who's using this particular device, I don't want to see them. Anything like that, if you have, you can also select the user agents to exclude like this. And if you wanted to track the resource performance, enable this box. So if you wanted the availability to go down, if it is an idle state, you can also enable this box. And if you have a monitor group, give the monitor group name here and click on to add monitor. Once these details are done, once you give these details and once the prerequisite is completed, you can view the details like this. So I'm just going to one of the real user monitor, which we have already added. I'm going to that, clicking on to the real user monitor. So I was saying in the beginning about a script, right? So this is the script that you need to inject in the web page. Let it be your header or footer, any static element, you will need to inject this script by replacing the agent, host, and the port. So you will be installing the RUM agent, right? That RUM agent's host and the port must be replaced from the script and added in the web page. So once that is done, you can view details like this. Summary tab, you can see the Abdex score. Abdex score is the percentage of satisfied, frustrated, and tolerating users while they're accessing your application. And it's completely based upon the response time of your application. You can also see the page views, how many views for the page, and also the errors. Scrolling down, you can see in which and all location the users are accessing the web page. So all of that will be shown in green. So you can just hover your mouse in the location where you can see what is the Abdex score for this particular location, the response time, page views, errors, and the throughput. Scrolling down, you can also see the response time graph. Just by hovering the mouse in the time, you can see the complete response time split up. You can also see the page views and the throughput. Clicking on to geographic tab, you can see the geographic locations as I've already informed. So you can see in India location, Abdex score, response time, page view, and throughput in a tabular format. ISP tab. So what are the internet service providers the users are using while they're accessing the web page? You can see from here. What is the response time, the count, how many users are using this particular ISP, and the throughput. Browser tab, where you can see what and all browsers the users are using for accessing your application. So here you can see different browser. For each and every browser, what is the average response time, the total count, how many people are using this particular browser for accessing your application. You can see the count and the throughput. Device type, you can see what devices the users are using for accessing your application. If they're using Windows, Linux, Mac, or whatever device they're using, all the devices will get listed here along with the response time, count, and throughput. Web pages, you can see all the web pages the users are navigating along with the average response time, the count, throughput, and the average page size. User sessions. So here you can see how many users are accessing your web page, what is the average viewing time, how many pages they are navigating, and how many sessions. So here you get complete information about each and every users while they're accessing your application. So this particular user, this time he started accessing your application, which exact browser this particular user is using, and you can see the device this particular user is using, whether he's using Linux, Windows, or Mac, or whatever, which country this particular user is based in, and how many pages he is navigating, and the viewing time can be seen. So in case if you want to know more information about this particular user, like this particular user, what are the pages he is navigating? If I wanted to see that, I just click on to that user where I can see what are the pages he is navigating, the response time, redirection, DNS time, network latency, all this can be seen. You can also see what is the start time for the user and what is the user experience, if they're frustrated, tolerating, or if they are satisfied. So this information you can see for each and every user that they are navigating your web page. Resources tab where you can see about the first party, third party, and the CDN resources. So you can also see it in a graphical view like this. Ajax calls, you can see all the Ajax calls happening in your application. If you want to know more information about this particular transaction, you can just click on to it, where you can see what is the aptX score, response time, page views for this particular transaction, throughput, and the response time split up. Similarly, you can see for each and every transaction and the JavaScript errors. So JavaScript errors, you can see how many errors are happening, and because of these error, how many pages are affected, how many files, and who are the affected users can be seen. Scrolling down, you can see what type of JavaScript error it is, which file that particular error is happening, what are the affected pages, and what are the browsers that's affected because of these errors, the affected users because of the error, along with the total count, and the domains. So all these can be seen in JavaScript errors. So this is about the real user monitoring, where you can monitor the user level experience for each and every user while they're accessing your application, completely monitoring the front end of your application. So let's quickly get into the presentation and do a comparison between the synthetic transaction monitoring and the real user monitoring. So let's see how they complement each other. So first, correlating business with performance. Let's say synthetic transaction monitoring can provide the performance data that will enable you to pinpoint problems with page load time or network bottlenecks. However, if you want to analyze exactly how web performance impacts business revenue, then all you need to do is that you will need more than the synthetic transaction metrics. Since real user monitoring is generated through real user traffic, it provides essential insight into real business metrics such as conversion rates, which can then be correlated with the continuous performance metric collected from synthetic testing. Next, identify before active users arrive. No matter where your applications are hosted, problems are bound to occur, as we all know. Synthetic monitoring is the most effective solution to identify a configuration problem caused by an off-house maintenance change so that it can be fixed before users begin using your application service in the early morning hours. On the other hand, real user monitoring would be the most helpful tool to measure the application responsiveness for each and every live users during the peak hours. So in simple, if you say synthetic monitoring before the users log in, you will be able to know where the problem is. Real user monitoring during the peak hours, you will know where the problem is, which user is having what exact problem. Next is troubleshooting outages. Combining both synthetic and real user monitoring data can make troubleshooting quicker and easier. When synthetic test fails or trigger an alert, data gathered from real user monitoring will show you the real-time impact on end user experience. Similarly, if real user monitoring data reveals a performance anomaly, then you can use synthetic to replicate the issue by exercising the same transaction across a number of ISP and different geographical locations. Collecting data in this way allows you to triangulate from various vantage points to identify the root cause that may lie in the data path between the end users and your application service. Real user monitoring and synthetic transaction can be simultaneously used to verify deep dive into performance issues. Now let's proceed to the last topic of the day on the tips to optimize the web page performance via the web page analyzer. So why do you need a web page analyzer? Let's take an example from the previous topic itself. Synthetic transaction and real user gives us insight into website performance from end user perspective, as we all know. Applications Manager Web Page Analyzer monitoring service helps you to perform web page analysis, keeps track on your web page, and also optimize web page performance using page speed rules and suggestions. It can help you identify what exactly is slowing down your websites. PageSpeed Insights is an online tool which helps in identifying performance best practice on any given website, provides suggestions on web page optimizations, and also suggests overall ideas on how to make the website faster. We will also have a waterfall chart, which means that when a web page renders, it has various components, right? Like a CSS, JavaScript, images, etc. So our web page analyzer tracks a transaction that take place when all these components load. Now let's get into Applications Manager WPA. So here we will be able to track and provide insight into various key metrics to help you effectively manage your web page. During each poll, Applications Manager loads a web page in a Firefox browser in the cacherless state and captures real-time data of various performance metrics of the web page. Let me quickly show you from the UI of App Manager. So here for adding the monitor, you just go to new monitor. Same procedure for all the agentless monitor in Applications Manager. Just go to Web Server Services and I'm selecting Web Page Analyzer. So you have to give these details, the display name, any name as you wish. Enter the web page URL that you wanted to monitor, the page load time, what the HTTP method, the get or the post method. If you have any credentials for the web page, give that over here, and the domains to block. So if you don't want to monitor a specific domain, give that over this field. You also have content check, just like your URL monitor. So if it contains a specific content, I wanted an alert, or if it does not contain a specific content, I want an alert. You can just give the content check option. And similarly, if you wanted to monitor the SSL certificate of this web page, you can also enable that box and give the details. Give the polling interval, click on to test credential. Once it is passed, you can go ahead and add the monitor successfully. So once the monitor is added, you can view the details like this. So you will also have a prerequisite that must be completed before you add, just that the web page add-on must be added in your App Manager working directory. So once that is done, once the details are given, you can start viewing details like this. Overview tab, you can just see the web page summary, how much page load time, how many requests is made, the page size. Scrolling down, you can also see the response time summary. And if you have already given the certificate option, if you have enabled the certificate option for that web page, and if you wanted to monitor them, even that will be shown here. Since we haven't enabled, we don't have data here. And you can also see the domain summary. So for each and every domain, their IP address, how many requests is made for this particular domain, the size, the average response time, and the average throughput. So you can see complete information here. And whatever domains you have excluded in the add monitor page, that will not get listed over here. You also have an option where you can compare the reports for different domains. For example, I wanted to compare the reports for these two domains. I just check these two domains, click on to compare report. On what basis I wanted to compare report for these two, I can just click on to it and get a complete report like this. Clicking on to network log, where you can see the complete waterfall graph which I was explaining in the presentation. You can see for each and every resource what is the status code, size in KB, the content type, and the page size. If you just keep your hover your arrow mark over any of the resource, you can see what is the start time, redirection, connection, domain lookup time, download blocking time, and the network latency. So for each and every URL, you can see the details. Resource details, where you can see what is the request summary. So you have different requests, right? Like a image, a JavaScript, a CSS, all this, how many requests is made for all of them and their size. Just like the real browser monitoring, we also capture screenshots for that particular URL. Complete screenshot will be captured. You can also see the resource size in percentage and the resource count in percentage like this. Page speed insight. So here is where you will get suggestions. So let's say you have grades over here for each and every rule. What is the score you can see here? So for example, this particular page speed, that is the rule, you get the score only as 34, and which is in a D grade, which is really less. So if you want to know what are the suggestions that we give for you, you can just click on to it, where you can see if you compress all of these, how much MB or KB you can save, how much percentage of reduction. The complete suggestions will be given like this. So if you follow all of the suggestion given by us, you could reduce the transfer size by 2.3 MB, which is like 70% of reduction. So you can just see for everything you get suggestions like this. So if it's 100%, that means there is no suggestions that we have because the grade is already A. So you can see, for example, if it's 79, again, I'm clicking on to it where I get suggestions where I can reduce 29% of reduction. But B grade is fine. It's not very bad. But D should be really a problem. So you can follow these steps. What and all you need to compress, we give detailed information on it. So this is about the web page analyzer. Now let's get into the presentation again. So before we do a quick recap of today's session, okay, so the last week we have seen on APM Insight, like monitoring the backend of your application, like the code level analysis, which exact code is causing the slowness, what DB calls are made, what HTTP calls are made, which transaction is having what problem, what are the stack trace, the cross application, the distributed type of architecture, the microservice one, all that we have seen in the last week, monitoring the backend. And this week we have seen on monitoring the front end of your application, like monitoring the individual URLs for better user experience, to monitor the availability, the response time of a particular URL that you have. We have also seen on the synthetic transaction monitoring, like how we install agents in different location and do the simulated transaction, do a playback, and how it works in App Manager. And we have also seen about the real user monitoring, where we can monitor the user level experience, which user is affected by which browser, what ISP they are using, what are the JavaScript errors. All these we have seen in the real user monitoring. And in the last, we have also seen about the web page analyzer and how to optimize the web page, how we show these suggestions, what are the network logs. All these we have seen in web page analyzer monitoring. So all of these topics together enhance the digital experience for users. So thank you.